Press play to listen to this article by Jack Blanchard, presented by BSA, the Software Alliance, and tips here. Subscribe for free. View in your browser. Good Monday morning. Spotted Playbook. There was quite a turnout for talk radio host Julia Hartley-Brewer's 50th birthday bash on Saturday night, including Brexit Secretary David Davis, former cabinet minister, and longtime DD ally Damien Green, LBC Radio host, and former DD aide Ian Dale, former Tory leader Ian Duncan Smith, former UKIP leader Nigel Farage, Tory rising star James Cleverly, and in-house communications Joe Tanner and Katie Perrier. Plenty of sore heads on Sunday morning by the sounds of it. Here's during and the aftermath. Just a thought, too much sun and Prosecco, was the complaint about the endless Tory plotting at last year's summer party season. Well, it's even sunnier this year, and the special party is this Wednesday night. Driving the day, May versus her party. Theresa May faces her restless party in the Commons this afternoon for her potentially dangerous statement on Europe. The PM is due on her feet at 3:30 p.m. to report on last week's European Council summit. While Brexit was only one small item during the 12-hour session in Brussels, it will take center stage today as MPs grab the opportunity to press the PM on her big checkers away day at the end of the week. And while Labour MPs led by Jeremy Corbyn will attack the extraordinary disunity within the cabinet, it is barbed comments from Tory backbenchers that will have no 10 most concerned. Speaking of which, backbench Brexiteer leader Jacob Rees-Mogg comes charging out of the trenches today with a hard-hitting Telegraph op-ed. He sets out a series of red lines for the cabinet and compares May's dilemma to that of 19th-century Tory leader Robert Peel, who was forced to resign after joining forces with opposition parties to defeat his own backbenchers. Rees-Mogg also ridicules May's idiotic customs partnership idea. Read the Telegraph splash here. In the Express, David Maddox says allies of Rees-Mogg have raised £750,000 for a possible leadership campaign. Red lines via Rees-Mogg. There are some things that no independent nation could agree to. Any attempt by the EU to impose its laws in court on the UK, either directly or indirectly, must be rejected. Any EU agreement that restricts the country's ability to make trade agreements with other states, restricts our ability to control our migration policy, makes us pay to trade, or interferes with our fishing waters could not be accepted. Bad news for Jacob. Theresa May's chief Brexit negotiator Ollie Robbins has told cabinet ministers there will be no off-the-shelf trade deal and Britain must basically pick between the Norway and Canada models. The Times' Oliver Wright reports. Robbins has been briefing ministers ahead of Friday's summit, and the verdict sounds pretty bleak. "I came out of the meeting and thought we were even more screwed than we were before," a source tells The Times. "If I had to gauge where we are, I would say Downing Street is moving towards the Norwegian model." The Guardian's Heather Stewart has heard the same. But a much more positive view emerges from two UK officials involved in the negotiations who spoke to Politico's Tom McTague and Charlie Cooper. They believe the threat of Donald Trump-inspired trade wars might just help Britain secure a better deal. At a time when Donald Trump is looking at a 20% tariff on European cars, the Germans may look favorably on a deal that avoids trade barriers with their biggest export market, one senior UK official tells Politico. The story also confirms May will this week propose keeping British goods aligned to Brussels rules and regs to maintain frictionless trade. May's biggest fortnight. Today's Commons showdown marks the start of a huge 2 weeks for the Prime Minister. She will spend much of this week trying to square off ministers, backbench MPs, and EU leaders about her emerging Brexit plan. DEP leader Arlene Foster is due in no 10 this evening, before she presents it to Cabinet on Friday. Assuming she makes it out of Chequers unscathed, the Brexit White Paper will be published early next week, with the PM then continuing her diplomatic push around Europe. She then has a crunch NATO summit on the Wednesday and Thursday and hopes to hop to Berlin to see Chancellor Angela Merkel, before Donald Trump arrives for his first visit to Britain as president at the end of next week. The summer holidays really can't come soon enough. daily reminder, it's not just the Tories split on Brexit. The powerful trade union Unite's annual policy conference kicks off today, with delegates due to hold debates on keeping Britain in the single market and on holding a second EU referendum. Anti-Brexit campaigners are wisely targeting Jeremy Corbyn's two power bases, Unite and the grassroots Momentum movement, as their best hope of forcing the Labour leader to soften his stance. More here from The Times. Unite chief Len McCluskey is due to speak mid-morning. A message from BSA, the software alliance. You're probably familiar with the term AI, but you might not realize it's already affecting industries across the globe, accelerating economic growth, and transforming people's lives in incredible ways. Learn more at www.bsa.org/i. Out there in the real-world Brexit gloom, while there has been little evidence of any shift in public mood over whether Britain should leave the EU, poll after poll shows disenchantment with the handling of Brexit negotiations. Flamingo Group, a global brand strategy and insight agency with clients including Google, Adidas and the BBC, has conducted in-depth interviews with voters to find out why. The firm shared some of its findings with Playbook this morning. Methodology: this is not a weighted opinion poll. Flamingo conducted 18 interviews lasting 45 minutes each with members of the public in London, Sheffield, Canterbury, Barnstaple and Mackinac Powys. 6 were voters first interviewed 2 years ago for research in the aftermath of the referendum, 6 were young people aged 16 to 20, and 6 were EU nationals living in the UK. The firm says it ensured a range of ages, political views, income levels and backgrounds were reflected. Think of it as an extended vox pop, some real-world voices to balance the endless politicking we cover in Playbook each day. Health warning: it's not terribly jolly. I think a public vote has no impact now because the government just do what they want. That's why I don't get involved in politics, because they say they're going to do one thing and they do another. It's frustrating, but what you can do, Leanne, Barnstaple, leave, still leave. It should be more open. I feel very shut out now because I'm not part of what is being negotiated anymore. Alison, Sheffield, leave, still leave. I think the government are so focused on Brexit that they're not concentrating on the real issues like the NHS and education. There's a lot of crime, and these really important issues are being neglected now because Brexit is taking up so much time. Jamal, Manchester, Remain, still Remain. We've sacrificed a lot and we're not going to get anything out of it. Sarah, Sheffield, leave, now unsure. Things will get more expensive with imports from Europe, and more trade rules even if we're trying to get more British produce. Kate, Barnstaple, leave, now unsure. My worry is we will get big import taxes with China or America, but hopefully we will be able to get a better deal. Alison, Sheffield, leave, still leave. People were excited and emboldened, and now they are burnt out. Tamara, London, leave, now Remain. The government doesn't understand what they want, let alone what the people want. Sita, Sheffield, Remain, still Remain. I feel like people have just given up. No one's bothered to even follow it, because what can they do? They can't change it, after all that. Danielle, EU national, Barnstaple, leave, still leave. What on earth are they doing? What are we waiting for? Is it deliberate? I don't trust politicians anymore. Alison, Sheffield, leave, still leave. I'm hearing uncomfortable comments more often, and it's getting more direct. People are taking the comments outside of their homes and being more open about it. People feel freer to discuss things like immigration. Jacob, EU national, Canterbury, Remain, still Remain. It's different if you are from Belgium or from Eastern Europe. If you come from Eastern Europe you have a worse experience now than, say, Germany or France. People see different types of immigration. Cecile, EU national, Remain, still Remain. They're dragging their heels. It doesn't take 2 years to leave the EU. There's a lot to sort out, a lot to be done, but it's a very big step for the country, and they could have sped things up so we know where we stand. Danielle, EU national, Barnstaple, leave, still leave. I didn't imagine it to be quite such a big black hole. I imagined more homework would have been done beforehand. Paul, McInliffe, leave, still leave. I'm tired of hearing about Brexit and Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn. In the time that's gone by, it's been 2 years. People don't want to have to go out and make another vote. They don't feel like anything else should be put on them. Tamara, London, leave, now remain. We've made our bed, we've got to lie in it. Typical British attitude. Let's put our best foot forward. Sita, Sheffield, remain, still remain. It's not democracy to have another referendum. That would be wrong. Jeff, Sheffield, remain, now leave. You need a vested interest in politics, business and trade, or you're not able to pay that much attention. I just want to put my head in the sand until it's all over. Sita, Sheffield, remain, still remain. Verdict from Flamingo CEO Desiree Lopez. The polarizing jubilation, relief, and devastation seen in the immediate aftermath of the vote have now been replaced by a more united sense of frustration, disillusionment, and a collective and potentially dangerous apathy towards mainstream politics. Brexit is the country's constant backdrop. It has presented more questions and precious few answers from the government. Planet Trump, Mad Dog bites back. The Sun's Tom Newton has got hold of a letter sent by Donald Trump's Defense Secretary James Mattis to the UK government, delivering a stark warning about the state of the British armed forces. Mattis effectively urges Britain to increase defense spending or cede power and position to France. I am concerned that your ability to continue to provide this critical military foundation for diplomatic success is at risk of erosion, Mattis writes. As global actors, France and the US have concluded now is the time to significantly increase our investment in defense, which is rather convenient for Defense Secretary Gavin Williamson, who is lobbying for a big boost in military spending. Meanwhile in Washington, Donald Trump's team have drafted a new bill that would effectively torpedo America's involvement in the World Trade Organization, Axios reported last night. Fabulously, the draft bill is termed the U.S. Fair and Reciprocal Tariff Act, which as acronyms go would take some beating. However, Axios also concludes there is zero chance of Congress allowing the president to actually do this. And meanwhile in Brussels, the EU warned the U.S. Friday by sending its own internal analysis showing an additional import tariff of 25%, applied to automobiles and automotive parts, would in first instance have a negative impact on U.S. GDP in the order of 13–14 billion United States dollars, according to an 11-page document seen by Politico's Brussels Playbook. Had enough. The U.S. ambassador to Estonia, a diplomat with more than 30 years' experience, resigned at the weekend in protest over Trump's disparagement of the EU and NATO. More here from The Guardian. Putin on a show from Russia with love. Vladimir Putin missed Russia's sensational victory over Spain in the World Cup yesterday, which is hilarious given it will probably be the host nation's greatest ever result. Putin was too busy to make the short hop across Moscow to see the game live, but did find time to watch it on TV, a Kremlin spokesman claimed. Presumably the Russian president assumed, like the rest of us, that Russia would get tonked by the former world champions, and decided he didn't fancy being filmed sitting glumly in the stadium as the goals went in. Oops. What Putin also missed, laughing at a heartbroken Sergio Ramos. For shame. Football fever, Putin could urgently do with some sporting feel-good factor, with his personal ratings plummeting after his announcement, slipped out on the day of the opening ceremony, that Russia's pension age is to rise. The Times has more. England expects England will also be celebrating Spain's shock exit, with a plausible route to the World Cup final suddenly opening up ahead of them. With the highest-rated teams on England's side of the draw all eliminated, Gareth Southgate's men could actually make their first World Cup final since 1966 by beating Colombia, Sweden and Croatia. All three are decent sides, but it's definitely possible. The Colombia game is 7 p.m. tomorrow night. The bad news, to actually win the thing, England would then probably have to beat Brazil or France in the final. Good luck with that. Bored of football? The Wimbledon Championships start today at the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club in southwest London. Two-time champ Andy Murray pulled out yesterday due to the hip injury that has dogged him all year. Today in Westminster, happy anniversary. The NHS turns 70 this week and the Commons Health Committee celebrates by dragging in all the bigwigs for a major session on funding this afternoon. Witnesses include NHS Chief Executive Simon Stevens, NHS Improvement Chief Executive Ian Dalton and NHS Providers Chief Executive Chris Hobson. The session kicks off at 3:30 p.m. It follows Stevens' appearance on The Mar Show yesterday. Not enough cash. In an interview with The Guardian's Rajiv Sile, the government's chief auditor Amy Esmore swades into the NHS funding debate by suggesting that £20 billion promised will not be enough. "I would like politicians to be willing to think bigger," he says. View from Labourland. Shadow Health Secretary John Ashworth just edits the Labour List website all this week to mark the NHS anniversary. He'll be writing the morning briefings too, the poor chap. Nasty taste in the mouth. Bad restaurant reviews are always more fun to read than the good ones, and this from Jay Rayner in yesterday's Observer is an absolute stinker. Unfortunately for the parliamentary authorities, he's reviewing Stranger's Dining Room. The venue smells of boiled cabbage, the cooking is mediocre, the price shameful, £65 per head before drinks and service. The kitchen probably thinks this mediocrity is cutting-edge stuff. Rayner writes, "It's not. It's banqueting food at a Ring Road hotel." Committee corridor. Navy chiefs discuss Britain's nuclear deterrent before the Commons Defence Committee at 4 p.m., with witness including Ministry of Defence Permanent Secretary Stephen Lovegrove, and 2nd Sea Lord Vice Admiral Tony Ratican. Also at 4 p.m., Housing Minister Dominic Raab will discuss the independent review of building regulations launched in the wake of the Grenfell tragedy, before the Commons Housing Committee. Speaker's Corner. Housing Secretary James Brokenshire makes his first big speech in his new brief, at a policy exchange event at 9:30 a.m. Skills Minister Anne Milton and Commons Education Committee Chairman Robert Halfon both speak at the Sun Trust Apprenticeships Summit this morning. Royal Society of Arts Chief Executive Matthew Taylor delivers his annual lecture this evening, urging radical reform of our political and policy-making system. Must-see TV. The second episode of Inside the American Embassy screens on Channel 4 at 10 p.m. Tonight's episode focuses on the consular staff, dealing with a flurry of visa applications as Donald Trump's travel ban came into force. More here. Must-listen radio. The state of bus services outside of London is basically appalling, as anyone who's had to rely on them will know. Mind the Gap. Britain's transport divide, on BBC Radio 4 tonight explores why. Tune in at 8 p.m. A message from BSA, the Software Alliance. Artificial intelligence is a powerful tool we use every day to solve complex problems. AL solutions are already leading to improvements in healthcare, advances in education, more robust accessibility tools, stronger cybersecurity, and increased business productivity and competitiveness, impacting every sector. Learn more at www.bsa.org/i.**. Media Round Today program. Former President Obama staffer Ben Rhodes, 8:30 a.m. Health Minister James Richard O'Shaughnessy, 8:40 a.m. BBC Breakfast. Health Minister James O'Shaughnessy, 7:10 a.m. All Out Politics. Sky News, 10 a.m. Former Blair spinner Matthew Doyle and the Sunday Times royal correspondent Roy Nicar review the newspaper comment sections, 10:15 a.m. Former Health Minister Norman Lamb, former Cabinet Minister Theresa Villiers and Labour MP Diana Johnson discuss the NHS at 70, 10:30 a.m. And Abba Mandela discusses his book Going to the Mountain, Life Lessons from My Grandfather, Nelson Mandela, 10:45 a.m. Daily Politics, BBC 2, 10:30 a.m. On early today because of the tennis. Spectator editor Fraser Nelson and BuzzFeed's senior political correspondent Emily Ashton. Reviewing the papers tonight. BBC News, 10:40 p.m. Former Health Minister Nicola Blackwood and Demos Director Polly Mackenzie. Sky News, 10:30 p.m. Today's front pages, click on the publication's name to see its front page. City AM, top Tories eye longer transition. Daily Express, hose bans in days as Britain dries up. Daily Mail, save Britain's high streets. Daily Mirror, tot killed by exploding trampoline. Financial Times, Trump car tariffs threaten to spark full-scale trade war, warns Brussels. HuffPost, sofa surfing and sleeping on trains, rise of Birmingham's hidden homeless. Warren cabinet out of control. Metro, girl, 4 killed by exploding bouncy castle. The Daily Telegraph, MOG, give us a real Brexit or face coup. The Guardian, NHS funding boost not enough, spending watchdog warns May. The Independent, children of immigrants, treated like cash cows. The Sun, world exclusive, Cheryl and Liam split. The Times, May piles pressure on Brexiteer ministers. On the continent, read what the rest of Europe's papers are saying in Politico's EU press review blog here, updated daily at around 8 a.m. Beyond the M25 from Berlin, Merkel in crisis. German Interior Minister Horst Seehofer offered to resign last night in a bid to defuse a clash with Angela Merkel over refugee policy that threatens to bring down Germany's coalition. Then he thought about it some more and called it off, saying he would delay the decision until he meets the Chancellor one more time Monday morning. Party leadership meetings will resume this morning. From Birmingham Brumdeal, the entire HuffPost newsroom has upped sticks and is operating out of this pop-up news center in Birmingham all week. Editor-in-Chief Polly Curtis explains why here. From Mexico City, Mexican Corbin, Mexico last night elected its first left-wing leader in decades as the populist Andrés Manuel López Obrador swept to victory. Known universally as AMLO, the firebrand leader is promising ambitious social programs to tackle endemic poverty. He should get on like a house on fire with his neighbor to the north. Latest here from the New York Times. London calling Westminster weather, cool, another week of glorious sunshine ahead, early cloud this morning clearing for a blazing hot day with highs of 28 C. Travel, severe delays from Paddington to Heathrow Terminal 4 due to faulty trains. More here, a match made in Downing Street, former no. Tenor and Lizzie Loudon are engaged to be married. The pair worked together in Number 10 for the first year of Theresa May's premiership, leaving either side of the June 2017 election. Loudon is now a partner with strategic comms firm Hanbury Strategy. Tanner now directs the Tory think tank Onward. He popped the question on a sunny clifftop in St. Anthony, Cornwall, at the weekend. Many congrats. Congratulations also, to Lib Dem Deputy Leader Jo Swinson and her husband, the former MP Duncan Hames, on the birth of their second son. Gabriel Peter Kelvin Hames was born at 5:53 a.m. on Friday morning, weighing 7 pounds. Her tweets start here. Having a mare, in case you missed it yesterday, BBC Radio 4-star presenter Eddie Mair has quit the corporation amid reports of a row overpay. Mair, who has hosted the drive time show PM for the past 20 years, is now apparently poised to sign up with LBC Radio, according to this Telegraph report. Seems like a good time to watch back that time he took Boris Johnson to the cleaners on the Mar Show. Out this week, Adam Smith, What He Thought and Why It Matters, a new book on capitalism and economics by Transport Minister Jesse Norman, is published later this week. The launch is tonight at Policy Exchange, where Norman will be in conversation with Financial Conduct Authority Chairman Andrew Bailey. More details here. News starts, highly rated no. 10 spinner Max Blaine has landed a big new job as head of news at the Department of Health. HuffPost has hired the Lancashire Post's investigative reporter AASMA Day as its new North of England correspondent. Happy birthday to former Chancellor Ken Clarke, who turns 78, Shadow Cabinet Office Minister John Trickett, Charity Commission Chairwoman and former Lords leader Tina Stowell, former Foreign Secretary and SDP leader David Owen, and Playbook's favourite little sister Amy. And celebrating over the weekend, Cabinet Office Minister David Lidington, Shadow Defence Minister Wayne David, Canterbury MP Rosie Duffield, talk radio host Julia Hartley Brewer. Playbook couldn't happen without my editor Kate Day. Subscribe to the Politico newsletter family. Brussels Playbook, London Playbook, Sunday Crunch, Brussels Influence, DC Playbook, all our Politico Pro Policy morning newsletters.